All right, guys. Our next guest is making a submission radio program debut after two back-to-back wins. He now takes on Cub Swanson in a massive fight at UFC Fight Night 108. Repping SBG Island, the Russian Hammer, Artem Lobov. Welcome to the first time to Submission Radio. It's good to have you.
It's good to be here. Thanks for having me, guys.
The pleasure is all ours, Artem. It's been a long time coming. Now, a lot of big things happening that we want to talk to you about. But first, tell us, where are we speaking to you from at the moment?
I'm just at home here in Dublin, Ireland.
I mean, a lot of people that don't know much about your history may not know, but do you typically spend your full training camp at SBG Island, or do you like to move around a little bit in between camps and train at a few different places?
No, I always train at SBG Ireland. I mean, sometimes for certain camps, we went to the location, a few weeks before the fight. But again, it wasn't, I didn't go to like a different gym or anything. We just brought the whole camp over just to get, used to the climate, the time difference or whatnot. So.
Okay, gotcha. So you're a very loyal man. And we obviously notice on Instagram that it's mostly photos of you and your teammates training. We're trying to get a sense of who the real Artem Lobov is. Tell us, what are some of the fun things that you get up to in between sessions? What do you sort of like to do for fun and to unwind a little bit?
Well, now I'm deep into the camp, so I do very little, to be honest. Mostly just train, and then we go get some food with the guys, and then back training again, and then just home chill with the girlfriend, and that's about it. That's all I do right now.
Well, we got to keep the girlfriends happy. We know that from first-hand experience. Speaking of your team, Artem, I mean, a big win for Gunnar Nelson this past weekend at UFC London. A lot of people were very impressed with his performance. What were your thoughts on what he was able to do to Alan Jouban?
Yeah, I mean, it was nothing surprising for me. I've known Gunny for many years now. This is exactly what he is capable of. He had a little night off against Maya, but I think he is back on track now, and he's going to get that belt sooner rather than later.
Yeah, he's a fascinating guy because he always talks about how while the title is his goal, he's not really in any kind of rush to sort of be propelled into the division. He's happy sort of working in his own development as a fighter. Do you guys sort of talk about that philosophy much? And I'm also wondering, where do you think he belongs in the division? Because he's kind of humble. He never really tells us.
Yeah, I think he belongs at the top. Between him and Conor, they're the guys that, make me believe in talent, because, there's a lot of talk kind of in the gym, some people, think there is such thing as talent, our coach, John Kamna, he doesn't really, but, to me, when I look at him and I look at Conor, that's how I know that, talent does in fact exist. And he's a very talented guy. What he is capable to do on the ground and in the stand-up, is you don't really see that very often, if ever.
And I got to ask you, just while we're on it, we did see you on your Twitter, you retweeted Gunnar Nelson's highlights. Obviously, it was a great win, but you mentioned the current champion, Tyron Woodley. It seems like you felt that he's doing a bit of complaining and sort of made that heard. What was the motivation behind that?
Oh, that was just, like I said before, I never go out of my way to try and slag someone or put somebody down or anything. That was just a genuine kind of tweet. I've seen him in the media lately always moaning, saying that the UFC don't promote him enough, which is not true at all. I mean, the UFC have given him everything they could. They gave him the platform. They shined that spotlight on him, and it was up to him to perform and deliver, and he didn't. They put him on the biggest fight ever in the UFC history in New York on Conor McGregor's card, and then the last time as well, he was the main event on a pay-per-view, and they put a very interesting fight before them, Nurmagomedov versus Tony Ferguson, which would ensure again that more people tune in and watch Tyron than perform. And once again, he didn't deliver. So it's nothing to do with the UFC, or he even once tried to bring out the racism card, which again, he has no grounds to say that, because John Jones was and still is a huge star. So how come it works for him? It's very simple in this game. Your performances have to speak for themselves. And a lot of people gave me a lot of shit for it, like saying, oh, what have you achieved? Yeah, and I agree. He has achieved more than me, but I wasn't saying it in that light, saying that, oh, I'm better than him. Not at all. I was just referring to the fact that he complained about the UFC before, and I just gave him a genuine advice. This is how you need to promote yourself. If he had gone in and absolutely knocked out Thompson the last fight, he would have been a huge star, but he didn't. So there's no point moaning about anyone else. He only has himself to blame.
Mm-mm. Well, let's get back onto you, Artem, because I want to talk to you about 2016. We remember when we were in New York for your fight at UFC 205, and you mentioned to some media members how you were sort of planning on fighting in Russia after losing two back-to-back fights in the UFC. Take us back to that time. How difficult was it for you to deal with losing back-to-back and sort of the prospect of having to go and fight outside the UFC?
Yeah, of course. I mean, if it was my way, of course, I would want to just stay in the UFC and fight in the UFC because this is where the hardest fights are. This is the Premier League, for MMA. So, of course, I wanted to stay in there. But like I said, and I've given my own advice, never ever moan or beg or do anything. Just go out there and get it. Go and get it. It felt to me that they might cut me after the 2 losses, and I was fine with it. I found the fight. I looked up who is the best guy at featherweight in outside of the UFC, and I came across him. It was Russell Mirzaev, and I contacted the management of the promotion, and I said, look guys, I want to take on your champion. I want to fight him, and that was it. And then I contacted the UFC saying, look guys, I understand you might want to cut me. I that would be a fair decision by you. I'll have no problem with that at all. So I found the fight. So if you are going to cut me, then let me go now so I can do this fight. But then they came back saying, look, we have this fight for you. And obviously, it happened the way it happened. But, I was prepared to, even though I didn't want to, but I was prepared to do whatever was necessary to put on, put a few wins together and get back in there.
Yeah, that's an insane story, how you were so kind of close to the edge. And I feel like there's a lot of successful people like that, Conor McGregor himself, where he, had that period in his life where he wasn't going to training, and now look at him. I'm wondering, though, through adversity, it's a lot of times where you learn a lot about yourself, you build character. What did you learn about yourself during that difficult time? And, we know the guys over at SBG Island are a really close team. Was there anyone in particular that sort of helped you through that difficult time?
To me, that's not a difficult time to me. That was nothing. That was a piece of piss for me. That's not a difficult time. Trust me. Like some people out there that have proper difficult times, that was nothing to me. That's just life. That's the way life works. Nothing ever works from first try. You have to, keep going. You have to, assess the mistakes, fix them, and then move forward. Ask any scientist, that invented anything, important like TV or a plane or anything. Do you think their plane flew the first time they built it? Of course not. It probably crashed millions of times, but they just kept going. They figured out what didn't work, what needed to be fixed, and now look, there's planes flying everywhere. So that's exactly the approach I take. I fix the mistakes, I pick myself back up, I dust myself off, and I keep moving forward.
And I mean, when looking at your fight record, it paints a very deceiving picture. Sure, you had many losses, but it was against some of the best fighters in Europe. And you told Paul Dollery of the 42.ie that your problem in the past was the size of your balls didn't match the size of your skill. You said, I was very green in MMA, but I was still ready to take on anyone. I'm just wondering, Artem, looking back, do you regret not taking smarter fights? Are you happy with the way it sort of played out?
Not at all, and I'm happy with the way, I did it. There was no other way I could have done it. I'm in the sport for a challenge. I want to be, the best fighter. I want to take on the best guys out there. So that's exactly what I've done. I've always looked for the hardest challenges. If I ever had 2 fights presented to me, I always pick the hardest. If somebody offered me an easy fight, I would never accept it. I felt that was necessary for me to progress as a fighter. There's no way you can learn what mistakes you're making or what needs to be fixed if you're taking on easy fights and you're just running through these guys. You need to be in an environment where you're constantly challenged, and that's exactly what I did. I put myself in that environment over and over and over again, and I feel that it has paid off for me.
And that mindset's very admirable, and it's a pretty rare one these days. Do you sort of feel like some fighters in MMA these days, the game's changed and maybe some guys play it maybe a bit too smart, just picking fights that they know that they can win stylistically and sort of, I guess, trying very hard to navigate their career in a certain way?
The game is filled with pussies. You know what I mean? It's filled with them guys. It's, of course, how cool is it? You go in there, you tell all your mates that you're going to be fighting, and you go in and you kill the guy in 10 seconds. It looks great. Of course, it's not like me. I come in there and I'm taking on the best guy in the city or in the area, whatever, and we have a fucking absolute war, and it's 3 rounds. And I'm bad up and I can't even fucking train for 4 or 5 weeks. Of course, that's the hard road. It's it's not pretty, you know, it's not easy, but you know, I felt that if you want to be a fighter, if you want to be in this sport, then this is the right approach. So hopefully in times it will change. You know, I will keep exposing all those guys that putting their records. I will keep, you know, pointing the finger at them, and I will never have respect for anyone that tries to pad his record. You know, if you want my respect, you gotta earn it, and I always give credit where credit is due.
Well, you're coming off 2 UFC wins going into your fight in April. I mean, what do those wins do for your confidence? Do they help you at all in sort of to this big fight coming in with Cub Swanson? Getting these 2 wins back to back, have they changed anything for you? Sort of explain that for us.
Well, I mean, the fact that you mentioned that I'm fighting Cub Swanson in the main event, I guess that explains itself. I mean, in the UFC get you, you know. I'm now going to be the main event, you know, fighting the number 4 guy in the UFC. You know, this is as big as it's ever been for me, and it's almost as big as it gets for anyone at featherweight. So I'm pretty excited about this matchup, and I can't wait to showcase what else I have in there. You know, because obviously those last 2, I had to be a little bit careful. You know, because I was still on thin ice there. You know what I mean? Coming off the first 2 losses, and then just getting the 1 win, and then now only the second. So I feel a lot more confident now. I feel a lot more comfortable. I feel like I can open up a lot more and showcase my skills a lot more. I can take a lot more risks in this fight, and I love taking the risk. Because in Russia we say, if you never risk, you never drink champagne.
and drinking champagne is always nice, so the risk is always good. And this is a fantastic matchup on paper. It's got fireworks written all over it. Talk to us about your thoughts on Cub as an opponent. Obviously, you mentioned that, you know, quote unquote, there's a lot of pussies out there. We feel like he'd sort of fit into the other category. And in terms of the matchup, I mean, some would say that it's another tough challenge. Some detractors believe that, you know, they question whether you've really earned this opportunity. What's your response to the criticisms?
Well, my response to the criticism, you know, you don't have to wonder with me. I will show up. I'm not like them other motherfuckers that coming up with excuses and pulling out of fights. I always show up. If I don't show up to a fight, I am dead. So I will be there, and I will give them a chance to see, you know, what exactly I bring to the table, and how I'm going to deal with this next challenge. So, you know, they don't have to wonder for too long. There's only 5 weeks left, and then they get to find out.
You've said in interviews how he's a perfect matchup for you. Sort of talk to us a little bit about that. Why does he make such a great fight for you?
Yeah, like you said yourself, I wouldn't class him as the, you know, pussy. He always brings it. You know, it's, you know, fair play to him. You know, he comes to fight. You know, he's not gonna run around. He's not gonna, you know, hide in that cage. He's not gonna try to grind it. He's gonna bring it, and he's gonna go at it. And so will I. And when we meet in the middle, I can promise you, I'm not taking a step back. I'll put that pressure on him, and I'll get him out of there.
And for you, this must be a highlight. What does it feel like being in the main event of the card? I mean, I guess we would normally ask, do you feel any pressure sort of to deliver being the main draw of the night? But it seems like you're reveling in it.
Well, you know, to be honest, because everybody's asking me how about this main event, but so I feel like I should probably be a little bit more excited about it. But to me, it makes no difference. I love to fight, and it doesn't matter to me whether I'm the first fight of the night or the last. The only thing it changes for me is that now I'm going to be fighting later than usual. That's it. To me, I don't care. You know, I just want the hardest challenge, the best fighter I can get, and I just want to fight. It doesn't really matter to me whether it's main event or not.
And I mean, your friend and training partner, Conor McGregor, has headlined some of the biggest MMA cards in history. Has he given you any advice about sort of going on last and coming out later on and being that main event?
Yeah, well, he gives me a lot of advice always, you know, with my preparation and how I schedule my training and how I approach the camp, and, you know, what sparring partner I should pick, and, you know, what shots should I, you know, concentrate on, and a lot of very, very good advice, and I always take it on board, because that guy is very, very rarely wrong, if ever. So, but in terms of how to deal with it on the night, well, that he doesn't need to give me that kind of advice, because I've been in there so many times. I'm very, very experienced. You know, I've been the underdog, you know, plenty of times in my life before, so I know exactly how to deal in that situation as well. Like I mentioned before, only in my second fight, I took on a guy who was number 6 in Europe, you know, and that was only my second fight, and no one gave me a chance back then. But guess what? You know, I came out victorious. So I'm feeling confident.
Yeah, that's crazy. Just on your relationship with Conor, I mean, we read in John Kavanagh's book of stories how, you two would just come to the gym and spar in private. It seems you guys have a fairly incredible bond. What do you think makes your relationship so strong?
Like I said, this game is filled with pussies. You very rarely come across somebody that's always willing to fight, always ready to go, always ready to show up, never shies away from a challenge, never shies away from a proper knock. And that's how me and Conor bonded over fucking hard knocks. That's exactly how we bonded. He would be looking for sparring, extra sparring, and he'd look around and not many would put their hand up, but my hand was always up. I was always ready to go.
And do you guys still aspire as hard as you did back in the day leading into fights, or has it sort of changed a little bit these days?
Yes, I mean, of course, it's slightly changed. I mean, we used to spar, I don't know how many rounds per week. Like, we do like 3-4 sparring sessions a week. And obviously that's good because you have that in the bank now. But of course, nowadays, the approach is different, is a lot safer and a lot more, protection that we wear, headgear and, bigger gloves. And so, yeah, it's a lot safer than what it used to be.
And in an interview with MMA Fighting, Artem, you said that now that Conor has gone from the division, you're the hardest hitting guy by a long shot. Would you say some of the sparring sessions that you guys had are in some ways bigger battles on you than the fights you've had in the past?
Absolutely. Like, I said this before, and I don't know, some people maybe took it the wrong way, but I am happy to repeat that, being Conor McGregor's main sparring partner is the biggest achievement of my life because, man, I'm telling you, if you knew the amount of work I had to put in to be in that spot, you know what I mean? To be the guy that, he always calls upon when he needs sparring. It's not an easy spot to be in, you have to be very tough, and just tough is not enough. You have to have skill. You have to be very skillful as well to be able to keep up with the pressure that he puts on people, so I've had some wars with that guy in that gym, so I've never had a fight as difficult as some of those spars.
And while we're on McGregor, just quickly, I mean, a lot of people have counted him out of this fight with Floyd Mayweather, but his power and ability is better than anyone. If they do fight this year, how do you see it going?
Yeah, I've said this before, and I honestly see Conor getting Floyd out of there by the end of 6th round.
Wow.
And the reason I say this, people always go, "Oh no, but no way, Conor is MMA guy and Floyd is a boxer." Yeah, but Conor is known for his boxing, and he used to box since he is 9 years old. He is boxed for a very long time. And have you ever seen anybody that moves, that fights like Conor? Nobody, and no matter what the other guys say, people aren't really good at assessing someone's skills. People are good at comparing things. Even if you look at the way our brain works, if I gave you something new that you've never seen before and I asked you to put a price on it, we would struggle to do that. But if I gave you something, let's say a new mobile phone, you would be able to put a price on it because you just compare it to other mobile phones there. That's just the way our brain works. But you've never seen anybody move and fight like Conor. So there is no way for these people to compare and assess how that fight really will go. And to me, from what I've seen from Floyd and from what I've seen from Conor, that is my opinion. That's the way I see that fight going. Conor finishing him before the end of 6th.
Wow, it'd be amazing to see that happen, obviously. Going back to your fight with Cub, Artem, we appreciate the time you're giving us, so we'll let you go in just a moment. How do you see the fight playing out? If you are sort of into visualization, if you've thought about how it's going to go, how do you see yourself getting the win?
Yes, I mean, look, listen, make no mistake about it. I'm preparing for 20 rounds of war. That's what I'm getting ready for, condition-wise and everything. But I'm looking forward to putting the pressure on him because he's never felt pressure like mine before, never ever in his life. And when I put the pressure on, he's the favorite. He's the number 4 guy in the world. He's got everything to prove. He can't be bullied around, but I will bully him around, and he'll panic and he'll start throwing and he'll overcommit, and I will catch him.
Oh, wow. And I mean, people can't wait to see the fight. And if you beat Cub, who's ranked number 4, it sort of shoots you right up the rankings. What do you think of the featherweight champions in Max Holloway and Jose Aldo? I mean, the featherweight champions, heavyweight champions.
Jose Aldo. I'll tell you one thing about Jose Aldo. I would have never, if I was in his position, I would have never accepted that belt. What? So they took a belt from the guy that knocked him out in 13 seconds They took it off that guy and they're handing him that belt, and he just takes it and he is happy and smile on his face. What kind of pussy do you have to be to take that? I'd be like, no way in hell would I ever accept that. I would say, give me that guy again. I want to fight him. And if he's not in the division anymore, well, then fuck that. I don't want that belt. Let the other two fight for a real belt, and then I'll fight the winner and I'll earn that belt. Because now he's holding a belt that Conor got off him in 13 seconds. And he will never be able to get rid of that stain. You know what I mean? Even if he beats now Max Holloway, he'll still be holding that same belt. So how are you, as a man, as a fighter that respects himself, accept that belt? I would have never done it in my life. I don't know why he fucking done it. So to be honest, I think to bring more life into the division, it would be better, I think, if Holloway won the fight, if I'm honest. But I don't know how it's going to play out, to be honest. I don't even think about that. I don't really give a fuck. I have my own shit to concentrate on. When I get past Cub, we'll see where that belt is and, where I'm at.
The way you're speaking, I'm wondering, do you feel like you could be that guy in the featherweight division who sort of, brings excitement and I guess brings a lot of integrity and honor and, some of these things you're talking about doing things the right way?
Well, if you look at the way things have been going in the UFC, you can be eligible for whatever you want. You can be ranked as high as you want. But if you don't show up, then all of that is worth nothing. And I'm the guy that always shows up. Aldo is the guy that fucking never shows up. So if he was to pull out, get injured again or whatever, who is going to step in? And I'm coming off a win against Cub. Who will step in? There's no going to be many guys putting their hand up. I can tell you that. So anything is possible. Now, I don't want to look that far just yet. Like I said, I have a lot on my plate now. But once I'm done with Cub, for sure, I will be looking how to pave that quest to that title. The way I see it at the end of it all is a lot of corpses behind me and gold wrapped around my waist. That's the way I imagine it right now. But how it's going to play out, we'll see. But make no mistake, man, I will not give up. No matter what happens, I'll fix the mistakes if they need to be fixed, and I'll be back in there. I can promise you that.
Wow, what a way to finish out the interview, guys. He is Artem Lobov. You can follow him on Twitter and Instagram at Russ Hammer MMA and Russ Hammer, and see him fight Cub Swanson in the main event UFC Fight Night 108 on April 22nd and 23rd in Australia and New Zealand. We can't wait to see what happens, Artem. Thank you so much for your time. We loved having you on the program.
Thanks again for having me, boys.